In this video, we continue our discussion of Chapter 5. So now we're going to challenge priorities. So we were talking about challenges that technology brings and different digital marketing barriers we're going to encounter. Now we're going to talk about different barriers and challenges we get just from our business. These are that um, a new competitor enters the market, or an unexpected regulation economy takes a downward turn, or we have a global pandemic, or a new CEO is appointed and they have very different ideas. So, all of the different things that can happen. A new competitor enters the market, we might have to change our marketing strategy to accommodate that and keep our current market share. An unexpected regulation is put in place. We might have to change all of our systems, our digital marketing messaging, the type of data that we're collecting. It really depends on the regulation. They might regulate the amount of emails you're allowed to send a person each month before it's considered spam. Okay? People's purchasing power has people are interested in buying products. Then what's our marketing strategy in that? It's a global pandemic, and supply and demand has shifted. Consumers want different things. Um, how do we adapt to that? And what if happens if we get a new boss that has a completely different plan and wants to scrap our current project and have us rewrite it from all over again because they have a completely different take on marketing strategy than the previous person did. Okay, so it's important to really understand what our milestones are so we can measure progress. Okay, so when we're making a long-term strategy, for example, what are different milestones that we hit? Do we have a milestone every 6 months? Do we have a plan for abandoning a project? Is there a point where we say this project isn't working and we can back out of it? Okay. Or what about a backup plan? Something that we didn't anticipate happens and we need to change our strategy. Okay. Is important to consider changing consumer behaviors and look for different things like quick wins or immediate gains to keep people aligned to the strategy. This comes back to those clear milestones. So, what are the quick wins? If we put out a marketing campaign that's supposed to last for a year, we aren't going to wait until the end of the year to measure it. So, what are some quick wins or immediate gains? What are we hoping for the first month, the second month, the third month? Okay. And regulation. So, one of the main areas of regulation currently around digital marketing is data privacy and data protection. How much data are you collecting? What data are you collecting? Do you allow people an option to opt out of that data collection? That a customer can choose what you keep and don't keep about their interactions on your website? And then once you have all of that data stored, how are you protecting it from being hacked or falling into the wrong hands? Okay. In 2018, GDPR is a new law that came into effect in Europe, giving consumers more control over their data, including the fact that they need to opt in to personal data collection, including accepting cookies. You might have noticed now that every time you open a website, and even if it's a US website, one of the things with digital marketing is anyone can access you at any time. So if I'm a US based company and I have a website in the US, people from Europe can still come to my website and buy products, which means that I have to be aware of digital marketing laws in Europe, and I have to make sure that I'm following those as well as the digital regulations in the United States. Cloud storage, again, where we talk about privacy and security risks, social media. Um, the amount of information that we collect for personalized campaigns, and then we only collect what we have permission to collect. And what needs permission and why does it need permission? So one thing we see, data protection for location services. So maybe you've downloaded an app onto your mobile phone, and one of the questions it asks is this app would like permission to know your location, for you to share the location versus GPS, and you have to say yes or no. Okay? Um, so some campaigns can bypass direct permissions, but they have to be sent to only people who are interested in receiving them, or in a way that I express permission in seeing the campaign just by clicking on it. Okay? A viral campaign is kind of the end goal. We want our stuff to go viral, because when it goes viral, that means we've reached that organic and not paid part of marketing. So people are sharing our content, they're sharing it wide, everyone's seeing it, and we aren't paying for that information to be shared. Okay? The book talks about a couple of different examples, such as the Ice Bucket Challenge, and it talks about what makes these viral campaigns successful. Well, of course, one of the common things is that it's for social good or it's benefiting a charity. Those tend to make viral campaigns happen faster and become more organic and more viral, because people want to show that I'm being a good person, I'm donating to charity, I have a social um, ethics, and so I'm sharing this kind of campaign. Other challenges that we interact, so economic forces, and we talked a little bit about this. Economic disruption. A global pandemic has had economic changes, market growth and employment. You can't open any social media app or website or anything that you're not encountering a news story about the unemployment rates. No one wants to work. There's not enough people to come around. There are employment shortages everywhere. Interest and exchange rates. So, what is the purchasing power given exchange rates? If the US dollar is weak compared to the Canadian dollar, then are we more inclined to, are Canadians more inclined to buy stuff in the US versus when the US has a strong dollar like they do right now? That means that Canadians have lower purchasing power in the United States. The same if someone from the United States wants to purchase in Europe, that exchange rate and the difference in what they're going to pay because of that exchange rate could potentially encourage them to not finalize that purchase. Political forces. Again, this comes down to regulation, such as that new law that came out of Europe in 2018 about privacy settings. What are the different rules and regulations for internet? Do we have to pay taxes and tax jurisdiction? So the taxation is something that was also a recent thing. So originally, if you sold online, and it was one of the benefits of buying things online, you didn't pay state taxes on it. Okay? I buy it online. You don't know where I'm purchasing from until you ship it from me. It doesn't matter what state you're in, it doesn't matter what state I'm in. Then a lot of states realized that they were losing a lot of income from that. And so now they've passed laws and regulations. So the state of Iowa is one where that was just done in the last couple of years. So they place regulations that say, tell internet companies, if you sell to people in the state of Iowa, you have to charge them Iowa sales tax, and you have to remit that sales tax to the state of Iowa. Um, so when that change came about, some of the smaller companies that were selling online said, I don't have the time or the money to keep track of all of the different states that I'm selling in and pay sales taxes to all of those states. So I'm just going to shut my online store. Other companies just started doing it, like Amazon. You'll see now that if you go to Amazon, they have your location and they charge you a state tax. That's because of laws that changed. Legal forces, data protection and privacy laws, anti-spam legislation, disability and discrimination laws. So your website has to follow UX and universal design regulations and meet ADA compliance. We're going to talk about that when we talk about the web design chapter. We're going to look at what those ADA requirements are for websites. We have our brand and trademark protection. You can't use other people's brands and trademark if they're legally protected. Intellectual property rights. Who can share what? You know, can we just share photos? No. So can I create a digital marketing campaign where I just find a photo on Google and I put it into my ad and I go out and use it? Well, no, that's illegal. Someone else took that photo, and just because it's on Google doesn't mean that no one owns it. So we need to make sure that we have the rights to use the digital media that we're presenting in our advertising. Okay? And then social forces. People change. People move, people age, people get married, have children, get jobs, get divorced. They might move to another state, another country. Culture is a social force. We talked about that in chapter 3, what kinds of culture barriers they are, needing to remember that maybe catchphrases or slogans don't translate into other languages very well, and thinking about all of these other barriers. So we'll talk about these more in depth on Thursday. As you can see in My.Wartburg, there are several readings about some of these different laws and regulations for digital marketing. That is the end of chapter 5.